Welcome to the Bradley J. Show. It's exquisite how on time I am today. I'm going to tell you the Fatboy Slim story. If you've heard it, well, I'll tell a different version. If you haven't heard it, it's a good story. During my career, I've had a chance to do some stuff that is so almost surreal in its coolness. Imagine being able to MC for the actual band Spinal Tap. That's insane. I've already told you my Steven Tyler story. I've had so many opportunities and done so many cool things. Gone to concerts in foreign countries and went to Moscow, etc. So today I want to share this story of the Fatboy Slim album and how I happened to get on that album. If you take the Fatboy Slim album, you've come a long way, baby. And I think if you look at the back, I think on certain versions it'll say, "Thanks, Bradley." And the reason is that I'm on that record. That seems impossible, right? How could you, a DJ in one town, be on this multi-platinum selling album? And when you say you're on it, are you really on it? Like, what did you do? We can't even recognize your voice. No, that's not true. You completely can. Melinda, you hottie. Is that all right to say? Is that all right to say? How's things with you? Family life. Have you made the big change yet? Getting back to the story. Yeah, I completely forgot about it. And then I'm doing my research for my radio show on tomorrow, which is on WZBC 90.3 at 3 p.m. Saturdays. I love it. And tomorrow, hour 2, the 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock hour, of what I've put together, I expect to be maybe the best musical hour I've ever done in my life. Of course, best is subjective. But for my taste and to the taste of people like me, it's going to be spectacular. But I'm doing that research, and I look at there's this band, and the band used to be connected to this band, which was connected to the House Martins, and the House Martins had a guy in there named Norman Cook, who is Fatboy Slim. And I thought, oh my God, that's right. That happened. So I'm going to tell you the whole story here. Melinda says, "Is this you singing?" No, not singing. Good question. That's a good question. No, I'm not singing. You're thinking, what's going on there? Okay, let me tell you the story. Back in about 1997, the year 1997. AD. Another century. It was another century. There was a song called Rockefeller Skank, which featured the lyric, "Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother, check it out now." We loved it. And I think I was doing evenings at the time. And Fatboy Slim was in the town. He came by. I interviewed him because that's my thing. I interview people. That was my strength. I wasn't funny, so I didn't try to be funny. I was smart there. If you're not funny, shut up and don't try to be funny. That's a lesson I could save a lot of people, a lot of DJs and podcasters and amateurs, a lot of time, and a lot of pain, and a lot of embarrassment by telling them, unless you know that you are super funny, then don't be funny at all. So I'm just doing my thing, and Fatboy Slim comes in. Like one of the biggest DJs in the history of the world ever. So normal, regular dude looking. Comes in, he's super friendly, he's nice. He is kind of humorous. And he came in with his friend Ginger Tim, who's kind of a videographer. And since we really liked that song. I had received a request for it earlier. I don't know if it was the same night. No, probably not. And I'd recorded that request, and the request was from a producer who was one of my producers at the time, who was not working that night. He called in and said, "Can I hear that Fatboy Slim? It's the band of the '90s, if you want to call it a band." And I said, I just wanted them to keep going. I knew what he was talking about, but I said, "Hey, I don't know which one you're talking about. Can you sing it?" So he says, "Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother." So I had that on tape and on cassette, I think. And this is 1998. Wow. 7 years after grunge hit the scene. 1 year, no, 97, 3 years before the millennium changed, before Y2K. And I said to Fatboy Slim during the interview, "Man, we love you around here." I actually have proof. I got this taped request. And so I played it for him. I played the tape back on the air during the interview. And he was psyched, man. I mean, that's got to be cool. You go to this was his first big thing. And to go to a station in the States and hear that some wild man was requesting your song, it's got to be big for him. So at the end of the interview, he was very nice. And he said, can I have that tape? I want to put that on my album. I said, "Yeah, sure." But, never believing that that's ever going to happen. Like, really? Whatever. I bid him adieu, and it was a wonderful experience. Ginger Tim actually figures into my life a little bit later on, his friend Ginger Tim. And months later, I don't know how many months, probably not that many, 2, 3, I don't know. The boss, Oedipus, calls me into his office. And he, even when things are good, he would like to scare you. Like, "Get into my office," kind of thing. "I need to see you in my office." To freak you out. He probably just had fun doing it, or it was a control thing. Whatever. It might have been just fun for him. And he had a cassette. And I had no idea this was all related. He had a separate cassette. And usually, we do air checks. And we were instructed to tape ourselves, bring it into him, and we would go through our air check, a telescoped version of us talking on the radio. Or someone had a complaint. Maybe they taped it, and they would send it in. I need a beer. And so he's looking all... I'm so sorry. Test 1, 2. All right, he's looking all stern, like I did something wrong, and there's a complaint. He puts this cassette in the machine, and he's looking at me all seriously. So I'm freaked out. And there's a song playing. It goes, "Right here, right now, right here." We'd never heard this song before. "Right now." I don't know what it is. "Right here, right now, right here." And then the song ends and it kind of fades out. "Right here, 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 here." Turns out later that was the first song on the album, of the Fatboy Slim album. A lot of my WBZ listeners don't know this story. I probably never told it on the air. Just didn't even think of it. So then after that song fades out, my voice comes on. And it's the exact same, pretty much the exact same tape that I played for Fatboy Slim, and he said, "I want to put it on my album." He did. Almost completely, maybe completely exact. It even said WBCN on it, because when I took the phone call to get the request, I said, "WBCN, what can we do for you?" or something like that. And he left the WBCN in. He left the call letters in. Do you know how huge that is? That was promotion, giant promotion. probably, I don't know, well, thousands and thousands and tens of scores of thousands of dollars worth of promotion because it went out to, it sold multi-platinum. And everybody that heard that whole album heard WBCN and they heard me. So there it was on the album. And I was, psyched. I never did get any cash for that. And you think, well, maybe I could have. Like Fatboy Slim, I didn't check his net worth, but it's got to be up there. Maybe you can check it for me. The thing sold multi-platinum, and maybe it would have been nice to just throw me a few grand. Like, here you go, brother. I'm rich. I'm rich. Here. But he didn't. And then later when I saw him at Woodstock and interviewed him at Woodstock something or other, had to be 99. By the way, there was a big fight over who was going to get to interview him between all the radio stations in the country that were there. And because was on the album, I won. And because Oedipus was powerful as well. He had a lot of leverage with the record companies. Anyway, I got to interview him, and he said, well, maybe I should have given you some cash. And I said, I don't know what I said. I don't want to be mercenary about it. I did get a record, kind of one of those gold recordy things. And I got the story. It makes me feel good. And there are a couple of related stories. One is it took place in Ireland. I used to work for Jameson and go to Dublin on St. Patrick's Day for the 3 years, 3 or 4, probably 3 years. And they let me stay a couple days and ride around on the bus on my own dime. And I went up to Donegal, which is in the upper northwest corner. And then I went on to some wicked small town. I don't know. I didn't see anything I liked in Donegal to stay. I just kept going. And I did find a place to stay. And I found a pub in a small town in Ireland on a rainy, rainy night. Cold and rainy night. Way, way up north on the ocean. You could smell the sea. They had these fish kiosks, like fresh fish. They would just throw it on a piece of bread and give it to you. I mean, they cooked it, but they cooked it right there. And I went into this pub, rainy night, seeking shelter from the storm. I ordered a beer. I can't remember which one. Might have been a Newcastle, because I was big on Newcastle. I sat at a big table all by myself. And even then I was kind of old, right? And these kids came in. There were three of them. 3 Irish kids. And they're talking about music, and they talked about Fatboy Slim. They're young, like, I don't know, 18, 19. Well, however, about as young as you can be and be in a pub and drink beer. And then I'm at the end of the table, and to them, I was old even then in 1998. And they were talking about music, and they talked about Fatboy Slim. And I said, and then what are you going to say? I'm on the album. What am I going to not say? I'm on the album. I'm going to sit there and not say it. I mean, that would be cool, but kind of weird. And how could I do that? I wanted to talk to somebody, so I mean, what a good thing to say. I said, I'm on that album. And there's no way that's possible to them. Here's some yank sitting at the end of the table. Some old guy. Says he just happens to be on this album we're talking about. And they're like, yeah, sure, dude. In Irish, however you say that. They just thought of me as being a blowhard drunk in the corner. Or just a blowhard, maybe not drunk in the corner. And I said, well, okay, I mean, you have it there on your iPod. There were iPods then. No. Maybe an iPod. No, maybe not. Maybe a Walkman? I don't know. I said, you have it there. They go, yeah, well, we do have it there. And I said, all right, if I'm on there, you have to buy me a beer. They listened. They had to buy me a beer. I couldn't believe it. It was too weird. I told them what I was going to say. I say, you're going to recognize my voice. And they did. That's the one thing I got from it, besides a bunch of, warm feelings and praise. There are other weird things about that. For some reason, this was a huge worldwide dance floor smash. All over the world, every club in the world, Greece, everywhere was playing the song. And you wouldn't think they would play the spoken word part in the beginning. But they did. I guess, as a DJ, if you can't do a good segue, you need to break it off for a sec to restart it. And so maybe you were had something that was just not going to go together with this band, because big beat can be hard to mix if you're going to mix it with something else. So maybe they just played it because it was a transitional method. But they played all over the world that spoken word part as well. And sometime later, some guy walked up to me and said, "Oh, Bradley J, I can't believe this, but I was in a club in Greece. I'm dancing, and then I heard your voice. And I thought that's pretty cool. And the DJs would play that part for some reason, for maybe the reason that I shared. So I do have that gold record. You know, they come in a frame, but this is kind of cool because it came in a frame that looked like a turntable, had a turntable arm. And the other thing was Ginger Tim, the guy that came with him to the studio that first night. I make music, and he heard one of them somehow, and he just made a video for me, and he sent me the video. Like, that's crazy cool too. It was a good video. I loved it. I've since redone the song, but the fact that he did a video was super cool. And what else? Oh, there's one other related Fatboy Slim story. It's very related. He came back later when he was super famous and played the Metro. And the Metro was packed. And I got to tell you that he was such a great DJ. It made people go crazy. You know, men and women both doing stuff they would not otherwise do. With people they would not otherwise do it. It was a sexy, sweaty, exciting environment. And we were guests of honor, kind of, because we'd done that thing last time he was around. So I got to introduce him. He played live on WBCN. He did his set live on WBCN. And Bradford, the guy that was the voice of the guy that had called in, and that's his voice on there, along with me, was there as kind of a celeb. He got to go backstage, and he was loving it, of course. And it's such a good gig for Fatboy Slim. It's not like he's in a band. He doesn't have a bunch of equipment. He has someone. He brings in his records, or he has someone else do it. He likes screwdrivers, so he'd have some vodka and orange juice under his turntables, make himself a screwdriver, and start doing his magic. And he got paid. I heard a rumor of the amount he got paid for gigs like that. I can't even say it because I don't know the accuracy of it, but I believe it. And he must have gotten so rich from all that. Doing the gigs and the record as well. I should have looked up his net worth. Though, you know, we don't know if those net worth things. I can look up what it says on Celebrity Net Worth. I mean, it's true. Only it is true what it says. I'll tell you what it says. And I only am doing this to show what a good gig being a DJ in the time. I'm looking it up. Somebody else, can somebody else look it up for me? Please. I don't want to not look at you. Melinda, Lou, go to Celebrity Net Worth and punch in either Norman Cook or Fatboy Slim. Celebrity Net Worth. So, here's the final story related to that. It was this gig, and we were broadcasting it live. And Albert O was back in the studio running the live broadcast. And these live broadcasts cost a lot of money. I don't know who pays for them. It depends on the situation. But the whole costs a lot of money. WBCN did a lot of those. There's a classic Aerosmith live broadcast on reel to reel. There was this closet with all these gems of reel to reel tape. And then later it became, what do you call it? DAT, digital audio tape. So there were lots of those. I remember the closet in the back of where Carter Allen and Steven Strick were music directors. There was a closet back there near the BCN Rock Stop. Do you remember that? Anyway, they paid a lot of money to record these. And so Fatboy Slim starts out. I introduce, we get the word. We're ready to go live. We're ready to go, ready to go. Alberto hands it down. I'm listening to the radio, so I know when to talk and when to introduce live. That was always the most exciting thing. You're listening to the radio, the song that Albert's playing is winding down. Pretty soon they're going to be coming to you live, and you have to not screw up. And everybody's going to be cheering, and you got to be big, and you got to be cool. Can't screw up. And you're listening to the song winding down. Alberto comes on. It's WBCN, da-da-da-da, that was so-and-so, da-da-da-da-da. And now we're going live down to the Metro. I think it was the Metro then. I know it was that building. I don't know. It probably was the Metro at the time. We're going live down to the Metro. Bradley J is there with Fatboy Slim, da-da-da-da-da-da. Bradley! And so, I do my thing. I do my highly professional introduction, honed over decades. And I tell you, it was Mark Parento told me how to do it right. Mark Parento was good at it, and he taught me how to do it. He taught me the secret. I did a good job. Then Fatboy Slim starts in his set, which was being broadcast live throughout New England on WBCN. And Fatboy Slim knew this, but he messed with us. I don't know why he did this. Maybe he starts his set that way all the time, and he's not going to change it. That could be. But one of his songs is, the lyrics are, Fatboy Slim is bleeping in heaven. Bleeping starts with an F, Fatboy Slim is bleeping in heaven. And I believe he had 2 copies of the record, doing his DJ thing. Or maybe it was pre-produced, but I remember that he had 2 copies. So as a DJ, he can play one and then play the other, rewind, and keep going and playing the same thing back and forth forever. So it was saying, Fatboy Slim is bleeping in heaven, which is FCC no-no. And not only that, it was not a passing thing. It was over and over and over again. Fatboy Slim is bleeping in heaven, bleeping in heaven, bleeping in heaven. Must have said the F word 20 times? More? Something like that. Over and over and over for a long time. Poor Alberto is having a quandary back at the ranch, back at the station, because he has some responsibility over what goes out on the air because, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. He does have the ability to shut it down if he thought he should. But no one's really prepared for that kind of situation, which always can develop during a live thing. But usually it would be an intermittent shout of F word or something like that, which might not be so bad. But this was repeated, clear, and deliberate by the deliverer. So Alberto had to decide whether or not to shut it down. Now, if he'd shut it down and he guessed wrong, Adibus could have been could have flipped out on him because that was my, we might decide that is artistic freedom at the time. Who knows what the rules were at the time? Whatever. It cost a lot of money. And there were promises made. We're going to broadcast this. So there was the FCC rule breaking going on versus the promises and the expense. It must have been super stressful for him. Man. And this is WBCN. I don't mind telling you. It was a citadel. It was a big deal. It was a shared experience all throughout New England. And so there you go. Those are my interactions pretty much with Fatboy Slim and Ginger Tim. I have nothing but good things to say about Norman. What a successful career he was with this band, the House Martins. And then I wish I knew how he did it, because back when he did that, like, it was before, I think, digital workstations, digital audio stations, which I use, like Logic and Pro Tools. I mean, there was probably I know there was Pro Tools then, but he probably did a lot of it analogly with, hardware machines and things plugged in. And I don't exactly know how he did it at all. He did it the old school way, maybe. And I wonder how could you do that? I also wonder how he could be such a good DJ. If you heard him live, he would blow you away. He was just so magical. He would energize you. This big beat music was very energetic. Well, that's my story for today, and I'm sticking to it. It's true. And I think, do you have the Fatboy Slim record? Do you have the Fatboy Slim CD? If you have the album, that's better. If you happen to have it, can you look on the back and see if my memory serves correctly? On one, there are a couple album versions. There's one with the kid on the front, and there's one with record library on the front. One of them has, I think, it says, "Thanks to Bradley." Not Bradley J. I think it just says, "Thanks to Bradley." If that's true, could you take a picture? Because I don't have a picture of that. Exciting live. I can tell you we're having so much fun, says Melinda. Melinda, you hottie. I said it once. I guess now it's out of the bag. I can say it a bunch of times. I don't know how Melinda keeps herself looking so good. I loved it all. Yeah, I have many stories. I can share them. But my life is not just WBCN. There's WBZ, and there's actually a lot of my stories come from being growing up in rural, weird, Gothic New Hampshire. I try to tell the stories as often as I can, so I remember them. But there was the time I almost drowned when the snowmobile went through the lake on Bow Lake. There's my crappy jobs. The time I busted the windshield by accident in my mother's car. Oh, that was I don't want to mix stories. Well, I guess I have to tell you that one, right? And then I'll be done. Then I'm going to get back to work. I'm preparing my show for tomorrow on WZBC. I broke my mother's windshield by accident. There was a spare tire. It was blown up. For some reason, I was strong enough. It had the wheel in it and everything. I was strong enough to lift it up. So I must not have been too young. I lifted it up and bounce. I thought that was, fun. And I was doing it near the car, and you start to get the idea. I was kind of off to the right of the hood, off to the left of the hood. And I bounced it. I picked it up as high as I could and bounced it. And it went doink and bounced sideways and landed on the windshield and broke it. And it was one of those things that's so big that it's almost too big to punish. You really can't. If you got punished X for this little thing and Y for this bigger thing and Z for this sort of bigger thing, really, if you kept that level of the incremental increase in punishment, it should have been a catastrophic punishment. But it was just so big, they just went like, oh, God, whatever. Melinda says, you're a great storyteller. Yeah, I think I am. Thanks, I appreciate it. You know that on whatever it is on PBS, they have storytellers hours. And they think they're so great. And they're self-aware. I am a storyteller. I am a storyteller on PBS. And you're fine, but don't be too full of yourself. I'm just as good. Right? And I'm not part of your storyteller group. One time, I told a story at the Paradise. This is a weird thing. There was a band coming from somewhere, and they wanted local celebrities instead of having an opening act. No, it was a comedian. That's right. Comedy act. And what they wanted was local celebrities to tell self-demeaning stories. Do you have a story that is embarrassing or self-demeaning in some way? And I did. And I thought, this is a good experience for me. I'm going to be scared. I'm going to do this. I told the story before. I'm not going to tell it now because I don't think I can. It's not for publication. But it involved a fight that someone attacked me. The question was, did I deserve to be attacked? And it was humorous in the aftermath. It was like this. It was like a barroom brawl. But I explained it was at a fancy dinner party too. And I explained all the nuances of all the conversation leading up to it. And it was interesting because I'm on the stage with a microphone. It's scary. When you can see the people. Actually, you can't. When you're on stage, I find out, you really can't see the people because there are lights on, glaring lights. But they laughed some. But I'm sure I could have done a better job. But it was good practice. All right, I got to get back to work now. I think it's almost time for a beer. Is it 6 o'clock yet? No? All right, I'll wait. And there we go. So, Melinda, thank you for being with me for once. I don't know why. Melinda, do you want to come on as a guest? It's pretty easy. I just send you an invitation. Another time. You let me know. So, ciao for now. Sayonara. Oh, was that cultural appropriation? And other things. I want to do a whole thing on Yellowstone. Have you watched that? I'd like to discuss that with you at some point, too. All righty, bye.